Introducing the 5% rule for retirement income. We're going to dive deep into this. Real simple stuff here, my friends, but I think you'll like this a lot. Let's revisit what the 4% rule is, because I think there's lots of confusion about the 4% and why I frankly don't take it all that seriously. It doesn't mean the 4% rule is based on fraudulent activity or anything like that. It just means the reason I don't take it seriously is two things in particular. Well, maybe three things, but two things in particular. One is based on the premise that you're going to take out 4% of your portfolio in year one and you're going to adjust that each and every year for inflation. I don't know any evidence that supports that. All right, so if you have $100,000 and you're retiring at 19 and you're 65 years old, you got $100,000. You have a 60-40 portfolio. 60% is S&P 500, 40% is in Treasury bonds. You're going to take $4,000 out year one, 4,000 times, we'll just say 3% year two, times 1.03. That'd be 4,120 in year two, 4,243 in year three, and so on and so on. The assumption is that your spending, your need of 4,000 will increase each and every year with inflation. To the point where you're taking that $4,000 out in year one, 4,000 present value, we're going to have 30 years, and we're going to have 3% inflation, and that will be $9,700 in year 30 when you're 95 years old. There's no evidence of this whatsoever. None. I mean, I'm sure there's an exception to every rule, but the evidence is the exact opposite, that spending doesn't increase each and every year inflation. It actually falls off. Now you might argue that falls off because they ran out of money, but we have evidence that says that most retirees are quite content. And so if they ran out of money, they wouldn't do surveys that said they're quite content. So you have to prove that the 4% rule, that you need to take that amount of money each and every year of inflation. And look, if you can find the evidence to show that, fine. But I haven't seen it. All right, number two is that on top of the 4% rule, we need income each and every year. Number two would be that you're going to live that long anyway. All right, so that's the second point is, how many people actually live in 30 years? I mean, if you retire at 65, how many people actually live until 95? Not that many. All right, so I mean, that I don't have any qualm with using that, saying I just want to make sure I don't run out of money, so I can have a 30-year time frame and time horizon in retirement. How many people is that applicable to, though? It's just not that many. Come on, big man. Here goes my financial planning assistant. All right, and then number three is that you never run out of money. The 4% rule is actually about 4.4. So you got Bill Bangin in 1994, the Trinity study in, I think, 1997. It's actually about a 4.4% rule, and that was a minimum safe withdrawal rate, or the safe withdrawal rate, that you never ran out of money, all right, ever. So you got a couple things. It assumes your spending is going to increase each and every year with inflation, i.e. your withdrawals are going to increase each and every year with inflation. I don't know any evidence of that. It assumes you're going to have 30 years in retirement. The vast majority of us do not live 30 years of retirement. Maybe if you retire at 50, the vast majority of us, if they retire at 65, aren't going to live for 30 years. All right. And part three, that you never run out of money. Okay, so I mean that's great, but I mean, why would we want to perfect? We're solving for perfection here. Number four is it also just does 60-40 stocks to bonds. A very simple investment portfolio. I don't have any problem with that, but it's just I don't like that. And then lastly, the Treasury yields have gone down significantly since the 4% rule is designed, which would lead one to believe that, oh my goodness, the Treasury yields have gone way down. Now we have to reduce the 4% rule to what I think is Wade Fowl and Blanchett. I think they talk about the 3.2% rule now. So I want to show you my 5%. I think this is based more on reality, frankly. But let's go into this. All right. What I'm doing is I'm taking the Robert Shiller data from the S&P 500 and I'm going back to 1871. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to do 30-year time frames. 30-year time frames. All right. So watch this. So I'm going to show you what we're doing here first and foremost. Initially, we're going to take, this is just a sample, and I'm going to go into 5% here in just a second. This is a 6% rule. All right. So a 6% rule says we're going to take $6,000 or 6% out of the portfolio, and we're going to adjust it with inflation each and every year. So let me show you how this works. We got $100,000. Our first year, we need we got $100,000. All right, we are going to, in the first year in 1871, we made 15%. So after year one, We have $100,000. It grew at 15.64%, so we're left with $115,000. All right. We're going to take 6% a year out. We're going to assume in this year that we've already had the $6,000 covered. All right. So in 1871, we have that $6,000 covered. We have it in cash or something like that. At the end of 1871, we need to adjust our distribution with the rate of inflation. In this case, inflation was down 6.875%. It was a deflation. So the portfolio went up 15.64%, but our actually income need actually drew down because of deflation. So we only needed $5,558. Hope that makes sense. So 100,000 grew to 115,000. 6,000 grew, in this case, it declined to 5588. So we take our 115,000, subtract the amount of money we need, and it leaves us as this right here. All right. The following year, we start with $110,000. So we can see we're starting in D2. D3 is our cell here. We're starting with E2, timesing it by this amount, and that gives us that. So again, D3 is E2, which is our end of the year, the previous year account balance, times by the end of the year return in 1872, which gives us that. All right, we had no inflation or deflation that year. The income did not go up; it just stayed. The cost of living did not adjust, so we still stayed at 55.58 or 55.88. Excuse me. So we started the year. We ended the year with 122. We had to withdraw 55.88, and it left us with $116,000. Hope that makes sense. All right, so we're going to do this for 30 years. So we go to 1871. That'll take us to 1900. All right, so the 1900, when we did that, we had a portfolio value left at $308,000. So even after taking 6% a year, we had $308,000. Now, the reason for that, frankly, we had some good years. I mean, look, we had, let's take a look. We had negative, pretty good positive, negative. We had some real good years here, negative. But it's deflation. We had negative 6%, negative 1, negative 5, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, negative 4. Negative 3, negative 1. This is all before the Federal Reserve. So what was initially $6,000 a year that we needed to take from the portfolio by the end of 1899 or 1900, excuse me, is $3,785. That's the cost of deflation. So that's how this works. Now I will tell you what I've done here is I started in 1990 or 1900, excuse me. And the reason I started in 1900 is simply because the Federal Reserve Board came out in 1913. So I'm kind of saying any years before the Federal Reserve Board were here, we just don't have to deal with massive deflation. We had the Great Depression. We had 2008. We had a small deflation, but we haven't had that of any significance like we had in the 1800s. So it's a completely different era. So what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, let's take the same numbers, but we're going to do 5% a year. And so we're going to do 5. All right. So here, I'll give you an example. I just copied and pasted. So we're going to start in 1929, the start of the Great Depression. S&P was down 9, 22, 44, and 5. Look at that. 3 straight years. S&P got hammered down 9, 22, 44, and 5.81. Not likely we're going to be able to make this work, but we did have deflation. $5,000 to $4,800 to $4,400 to $4,000 is what it costs to live when you factor in cost of living adjustments. But I want to show you how this works. So again, we're taking $100,000. All right, we're going to do 5%. This is the 5% rule. All right, $100,000 was down 10% or 9.46, so it left us with $90,540 at the end of 1929. We needed $5,000 because in 1929 there was no inflation at all, no deflation, no inflation, so we needed $5,000. So the portfolio was worth $90,540 minus the $5,000 we needed to live on, so it left us with $85,540. The following year, we're down 22%. All right, so we start with $85,540 and 02 times 77.7728 and M3, and that leaves us with $66,000. We have deflation of 2.34%, but we still got to take $4,883 from the portfolio. 66,103 minus 4,883 leaves us with $61,000. The next year we just got crunched. 61,000 we lost 44%, so we're sitting on 34,000 at that point. Here we have a $4,445 distribution because we had deflation of 8.98%, but we're only left with $29,000. So $29,000 off of $4,445 off of $34,000 that's a 13% distribution rate, and our goose is cooked. And what you'll see here is we're going to run out of money right there in 1946. So we went from 1929 to 1946. We had 17 years of running before we ran out of money. All right, so what I've done, I've done this from 1900 to 2019, which gives us 99 instances of this. All right, so 99 times, which is freaking perfect. So we have had 99 30-year time frames. I hope that makes sense. Of the 30-year time frames, of the 99 30-year time frames, we had 18 losses, and 99 minus 18 is 81, and 81 wins, right? So of the 5% rule, of 99 times, 81 times we actually had money left over after 30 years. 18 times we ran out of money. All right, so if you take 18 or you take 81 divided by 99, that's an 82% success rate. Using 30 years, adjusting it with inflation, and using just nothing but the S&P 500. So 82% of the time we were successful, that we had money left over. 82% of the time. All right. Well, I mean, now there's even more to the story. If I said you have an 82% successful rate using a 5% rule adjusted with inflation, you'd probably say that's pretty good. I'm willing to risk that because, A, I don't know if I'm going to live 30 years. B, I can tighten my belt if things go like they did in 1929s. I mean, my goodness, if you have a situation like 1929, we'll tighten your flipping belt. And C, your likelihood of you increasing your spending each and every year with inflation is nominal. But of the 18 times that we're failing, look, we already did 1929 to 1947 we ran out of money. So let's go back to 1928, shall we, and see what happens. We're going to go to 1928. So I can't remember when we started having the. Oops, I guess let's go. Well, let's try 1920. Let's try 1927. 1927. That'd be to 1956, right? 1927 and 1956, right there. Right, copy. And we're going to go over here. We're going to adjust this formula equals that times that. So 1927 and 1956, and we had money. We had $605,000 left. All right, let's go to 19. I'm not going to do them all because you'll go crazy watching me, but we'll do 1928 to 1957. The reason I want to show you this, there's something significant that jumps out here. And we go, and that times that. 1928 to 1957. Value after distribution, and we had money. Look at that. All right, there we go. So here we still had money here too. So from 1929 is when it hurt bad. So let's go to 1930. All right, we're gonna go to 1930 to 1959. 1930 to 1959. All right, let's see what we got right there. Copy, go up. Paste, and I'm sure that will run out of money as well. But let's see, shall we? Blink times that. 1930 to 1959. That ran out of money in 1950. All right, so even that lasted 20 years, so that's 5%. All right, so basically, let's go to. I want to go one more here. 1931. So we've already had 2 of the 18, and basically, let me show you something here. Let's go to 1931 right here. 1931 to 1950 to 1950. Oops, I'm way higher. Right, 1931, 1950, right? Or no, wait, where did I go? 1931, 1960, excuse me. 1931 to 1960, right there. Hey, buddy. 1960. What's up, dog? All right, 1960, right there. Okay. Go up here and copy and paste. And we're going to go to equals that times that. I'm sure this will be a -2. And go to value after distribution. No, look at that. Even though we started the year 44% down, and the next year down 5%. The following 2 of the 3 years next were up 56 and 54 and 32% respectively. So even though it got dicey here, we did not run out of money. All right, so let me show you what the issue is. Basically, there's a couple years in the 1930s, but the major issue that comes, watch this, is going to be right about here. We're going to start right, I think it's 1962. 1962 to 1991. 1962 to 1991. I'm going to come up here. And that. Yeah, we ran out of money in 1990. So here, so look at this. That, I mean, even that's 28 years. So one of the 18 we ran out of money in 1990, in 28 years. And also, if you look at the 60s into the 70s, the bulk of these 18 years were the Great Depression or the 70s, essentially. So 62, basically, so from 62 onward, that was in 1962. If we go to hold on just a sec. Let's go to we'll just pick 1965 to 1994. 1965 to 1994. Let's do that. Boink. We're going to come up here. Right there. Go right there. Go right there. Oops. Okay. Go right there. And that we got crunched. But even that was still, 1960. That's still 20 years. What I'm trying to say is there's two significant circumstances, and the biggest circumstances within the 60s and 70s, because watch the inflation. 6, 5, 5, 11, 9, 5, 6, 7, 11, 13, 10. I mean, we just had significant inflation during this time frame when Nixon was president. 5, 6, 4, 3, 6, 11. See what I'm saying? So that's when we got crunched, because the money that we had to pull from the portfolio adjusted with inflation. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So we go, was 5,000. We fast forward to 1975 is now, or 1976 is now 9,000. All right. So, I mean, that's from 1965 to 1976. That's 11-year time. It almost doubled. It actually did double by 1978. That's a 13-year time. And then it's at 13,000 in 1980. It's at 16,000, 17. I mean, it's just, we got killed by inflation. And even that with the 5% rule, we're still able to last. Isn't that crazy? So now let's do this. Instead of adjusting for inflation, let's just do straight 5,000 a pop. We're going to go clear. We're going to say, just do this right here. Watch. And we're not even going to adjust for inflation. Look at that. You saw what? You see just what happened here? So here we ran out of money. We got crushed. We ran out of money in year 22. So even with that bad time frame, we had money up until year 22 when we adjusted for inflation. If we don't adjust for inflation, watch. We didn't run out of money. And why? Well, if you don't adjust for inflation, that's similar, not 100% there. But I mean, you obviously want to do your own crunching of numbers here, but it's similar to the fact that your spending is actually going to drop most likely. I can't say factually will for you. Will drop most likely as you age. And significantly too. And we see this consumer expenditure survey for the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Health and Retirement Study from University of Michigan, the Census Bureau, all kinds of different studies show you that people's expenditures fall as they age. So in this case, we're not even adjusting for inflation. Or you can even do this. You can do like this. You can say, okay, we'll adjust for inflation for the, first freaking, let's see, we started in 1965 for the first 10 years, and then we'll stop. I mean, it's all kinds of different things you can do. And here we're going to stop. Let's see what that looks. Oops. No, we want to, hold on a sec. We want to just, 7161. So let's just do that. Let's just type in 7161, boink, and let's just not even adjust for inflation. Oops, hold on a second. Boink, boink. And I have no clue what this will look like. Let's see. Yeah, even that. So here, we're adjusting for inflation for the first 10 years, and then we just say, okay, we're going to stop. You didn't run out of money. I mean, we can, so if we go back to the biggest one was in 1973, in 1974 because we got hammered on the markets right here. And then on top of that, inflation started becoming bad. So 1973 to 2002. And that's actually, I mean, that's bad because 2000, 2001, and 2, the markets got crunched too. So let's do this. All right. And so if we can survive this right here, I think we can pretty much put icing on the cake, the cherry on top for the 5% rule. I'm sure we don't. Yeah, we ran out of money here in 1992. So 1973, 19 years. So we ran out of money in 19 years. All right. So now let's just say we're going to spend money for the first 10 years adjusted for inflation. So 73 to 1982. And then at that point, we're going to stop. We're going to say we're just going to keep that flat amount of money in 11,544. And we're just going to use that instead. Let's see what, and I have no idea what's going to happen here. I imagine it's still not going to be pretty, but let's see. Yeah, we run out of money here, but we ran out of money in year 23 as opposed to year 18. All right, and that still is adjusted pretty heavily for inflation. So let's just say we'll say 6,000 a year as opposed to, let's go back, let's do 6%. And this time, 6,000. And this time we're not even going to adjust for inflation. We're just going to say 6,000 across the board. What does it look like? This is probably the worst you're going to get, in that we don't run out of money. So here we start with 6,000, 6% the first year, not adjusting for inflation. You're down 15 and 26% respectively, down 41% with inflation also kicking in 6, 11. So down 15% with a 6% inflation means you're down 21%. Down 27% with 11% inflation means you're down 38%. So you're down 59% real numbers there. You're taking 6,000 a year. You're not adjusting for inflation. And don't forget, you're ending the last 3 years in huge negative territory, negative 11, negative 12, and negative 22%, and yet you still had money left over because you're not adjusting for inflation. Now let's say we do, let's do this. Let's do 6,000 a year, and we'll stop right there at that'll be year 1980. We're going to stop at 11,828. I imagine we're going to be world hard. Let's take a look. 11,828. Yeah, we still run out of money there. So the issue is the inflation adjustments or not. Or you could say, if we don't adjust for inflation, we want to take 8% right out of the gate. We're going to say $8,000, all right? And now we're just going to say $8,000. It's an 8% withdrawal rate. And this is literally the worst time, and we don't run out of money there. I just don't know why we're sitting there on the 4% rule. So here we're saying we're going to take 8,000 a year out, 8% withdrawal rate. We're not going to adjust for inflation because we see the evidence that most people's spend goes down as they age. We're going to take significantly more out. We're going to start in the era of the 70s, which are horrific, man, with inflation, negative returns. And we're going to end the year of the 2000 tech bubble, the 2001 terrorist attacks, and whatever happened in 2002. We're going to start and end on bad numbers. And yet we're still taking 8,000 a year out each and every year. And we still are left with $13,000 left. This is 100% stocks. I mean, this is 100% stocks during the most trying times that we've had. Let's go back to 1930s. We'll go back to 1929 and do one more instance like that. 1929. There we go to 1960. 1960. Yeah, right there. All right. No, 1929 to 1958. That's what it'll be. 1929 to 1958. Hold on a sec. 1929 to 1958. Right there. All right, you ready? All right, so let's go back. We're going to hit boink, boink. So here we're taking 8,000 a year out. Now we already knew we ran out of money when we're taking, what did I say, 6,000 a year. So we definitely run out of money at 8,000 a year. So yeah, you can see that 8,000 a year adjusted for inflation. Inflation's down. You can see us run out of money there. 10 years in. Yeah, 10 years in. So we got hammered by taking 8,000 a year out. Not good. So we don't want that, even though we were adjusting it with inflation on the downward trajectory for sure, because inflation was deflation at that point. So let's say we're 5,000. I don't know if we did this or not. And there we ran out of money right there in year 18. So, I mean, other than 1929, 1930, 1931, we survived just fine. Could that come around again? Well, all I got to tell you is, look, man, how about come When you're down 44% and you're left with $34,000 in your portfolio, don't take 13% distribution out. Tighten the belt, man. Tighten the belt. If you don't start these 3 years like that, though, and again, the likelihood of that happening is nil. It's never happened before. I mean, the worst we've ever had was 73, 74 on top of what we had in 2000, 2001, and 2. What would happen in 2008 when you factor in inflation, well, I mean, that's a nothing burger, relatively speaking, compared to this stuff. And it was quick. It was painful, don't get me wrong, but there was deflation in 2008. So it really wasn't the extent of the losses that we see here. Anyway, I just sit there. I ponder why more people don't look at the 5% rule as a. This is adjusted for inflation. If you don't even adjust for inflation, you're fine. So if you adjust for inflation, 82% of the time you're a success. If you don't adjust for inflation, I didn't run the numbers, but I can only assume the vast, if not all the times, well, it wouldn't be successful because we just did right there. You probably fail 5 times out of 99. I'll take that any day of the week. So that's the 5% rule, man. Live it, learn it, love it. Remember, if you get killed in the first 3 years, you're going to have to tighten your belt. If you don't get killed, just go have fun. All right, I'd love to hear comments on this. Hopefully this will make mainstream media. We'll see you.